So we want to talk about the meetings in during the UN Assembly, but before achieving that, we need to talk about two other things. Because it's been a long time, we had a conversation with you. There was an attack
Yeah.
on Qatar, and then there was
Hmm.
this pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia that you mentioned earlier, and then we'll come towards the UN. So in the UN, there's a backdrop of these two events, which includes attack on Qatar. Quickly, we want your opinion on the attack on Qatar and how this changed everything in this region.
Well, no, nobody was expecting this, and for one reason. Why? Because Qatar hosts one of the largest U.S. base in the Middle East. So you will think, who dares to attack Qatar? Well, there is only one country, and that country is Israel, or was Israel that did that. So, and that tells you two things. One is you can count on the Americans. So the security umbrella that the U.S. has regarding vis-a-vis Qatar is useless. Second, whether the Americans were aware of that and let it go, which tells you the story that the Americans do not care about Qatar or any other Arab country or Muslim country for that matter. The third element to all this, which is very concerning to me, is geopolitically driven. Are we looking at the changing map, the geopolitical landscape or geopolitical map of the region by having Israel started to expand? Is it aiming at something beyond Gaza, beyond the borders with West Bank and so forth? And that is very concerning. I was in China when that event happened, and I remember I talked to my community and I mentioned that, Mike, my word, Qatar will do nothing. As a matter of fact, most of the Arab countries, Arab Sunni countries, will not especially in the Middle East. They won't do anything because they can't. They're too weak, and they're just too weak. And that's exactly what the attacks on Qatar displayed or exhibited. Israel sort of looked at it as a green light to do whatever it wants, except against two entities. One, actually three, but mainly two. One is Iran, and second one is Yemen. Israel will have to think twice about that because they know what those two countries will do. They don't talk, they will react. Qatar was just issuing statements after statements. So is Jordan, so is Saudi Arabia, so is Kuwait, Bahrain, and so forth. So the idea of that, this particular operation by Israel is aiming at a much bigger objective. And that objective is to foment chaos within the Gulf states, that's one. And second, to pave the way for the expansion of Israel conflicts in the region because Israel counts on the U.S. involvement because we do serve Israel. Let me just state this for the record. American government does not represent the American people. It represents Israel. It works for Israel. Let me just say this straightforward. So, and that was one of the objectives for Netanyahu, why he did what he did. Even Israelis themselves. I have Jewish friends. I talk to them. They disagree with what Netanyahu is doing. And that in itself, in my opinion, sort of now opened a very Pandora box, if I may use the term, as to what might lie ahead. Because I have one question that am asking myself. Which country is next? And I'm looking at four. Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey. Those four countries. Which one? I don't know for now.
Dr. David, then came this
Yeah.
security pact between Pakistan and Qatar. Oh, sorry, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Firstly,
In Saudi Arabia.
how
Yeah.
would this change the Middle East and the Muslim alliance? This is an unprecedented event that has happened here and says a lot about
Mm-hmm.
this region as well. So let's talk about like one by one. What effect would this have on the Arab countries, on the Muslim countries, and then
Mm-hmm.
this region, subcontinent, India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan?
Yeah. Well, even for those who are, for example, like myself, accustomed now to understanding the dramatic developments and events in the Middle East, some of us were caught off guard by these announcements of the defense pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. I'm aware of it. I was aware of it. I used to be aware of when Ashraf Kiani, the retired general, used to come over to Saudi Arabia on a secret visits. It's kind of, we dealt with all that. We're aware of the Pakistani, the defense support of between the defense pact rather between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. It's nothing new. What's new in it is the timing and the nuclear umbrella, and that in itself, why it represents this pact more now than anything else than strategic aspects of it. Of course, it's going to change the dynamics, but let's not jump to conclusions immediately, because one of the things that your viewers need to understand is, or ask themselves the question, is whether the US and Israel were aware of such thing. And if they did, why did they allow it? You're going to have to ask these simple questions. Whether they did or not, that's beside the point right now. Suffice it to say that how the Saudis welcomed Shehbaz Sharif with the red carpet and the treatments and the flyover of the fifth F-15, if I recall, that tells you the significance of why the Saudis decide also to move forward into that direction. And that in itself, the message that was sent was a political one to the United States, but also a security aspects of it. Is that now the Saudis said to themselves, you know what? We'd rather be under the nuclear umbrella of our brotherly Muslim country, Pakistan, than we be under the US. Why? Because you can't trust the US. That's one reason. Second one is that nobody should be surprised at this either. Why? Because it was Saudi Arabia that financed the nuclear program for Pakistan. It's no secret. Once again, it's just the information was out there. So the idea that the Saudis thought about it that way at that time, and I recall certain conversations back then when King Fahd used to be the king of Saudi Arabia, and the conversation way back with some representatives of both the ISI and the civilian government in Pakistan. And the deal was, you know what, we'll fund that nuclear program, we'll do whatever, and in case we ever need help, you'll be there for us. That was the deal. What's different about this pact, Ali, is that, what's his name, the defense minister of Pakistan, Asif, yes, he came forward and publicly, and a day after the pact was signed, if you followed the press releases, and all, was nothing mentioned about the nuclear umbrella at that time. A day after, the defense minister disclosed that publicly, and that tells you exactly where things are moving forward. So now, to go back to my earlier statement about the four countries that Israel might consider, I think now we can remove Saudi Arabia from the equation. Because the pact, the defense pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, consists of a mutual defense. In other words, if one country is attacked, it's like attacking both countries, which means each one will come to the defense of the other. It's like Article 5 at NATO. The only difference here is the idea of how that's going to now expand beyond the Middle East, especially when it comes down to next door of Pakistan. What am I referring to? I'm referring to India, because India also has a good relationship with Riyadh. However, Saudi Arabia trusted more the Pakistanis than it did the Indians. So basically, what this pact, the defense pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, who's the loser and who's the winner? India is the loser, because India now is holding the end of the stick. When you consider Pakistan is also developing its military ties with China. So as a matter of fact, I was aware of a conversation that's going on between Pakistan and China regarding the J-10 fighter jets, which the Pakistani might get. Well, guess what? is the Pakistani, if the or when, rather, not if, when the Pakistani gets it, who else is going to get it? Is the Saudis, because the Pakistanis trains the Saudis. I was aware of about 8,000 Saudi soldiers have been trained by the Pakistanis. There's a lot of coordination. This is why the retired general Ashraf Kiani used to come over discreetly for conversations. We were aware of that. I was on the ground, as a matter of fact, and during his trip, and I had to do something pertaining to that particular visit. So, without going into details for that. So this is where I see the development moving forward. And given now, you even have now voices inside India asking for Modi to be out. They want Modi out because the guy has not, especially the defeat of India. You know, Pakistan defeated India. Let's not sugarcoat it. What Pakistan also gained, not just the victory, also they gained the strategic foreign policy advantage. That's why the Field Marshal Asim Munir went ahead and issued the statement he issued. Remember when he said that, we will, because now Pakistan is extending its hand to Bangladesh. That's for a reason. It's because Asim Munir is thinking in strategic terms by having the eastern flank taken care of. So it's a win. No matter how you look at it, it is a win-win for Pakistan. So, and this defense pact between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan cemented that vision and that strategic thinking of Pakistan moving forward.